as you said, I've had the unbelievable blessing of helping young men like Dahntay. I know I had my own kind of transition after 2006, having a long career. I really was looking forward to walking off the floor because my body was just so broke down. I was so tired of, waking up every morning feeling tired and feeling beat down. And I know you have that kind of similar thing. It's like when you play, usually when you're young, you can just go out and play. You don't stretch, you don't warm up, you don't do nothing. You just walk on the court, you'll be ready to play. Well, my last year, I found myself literally having to get there 2 hours earlier. And then even when I warmed up, stretched, got treatment, I still wasn't loose. So really the game and the way that I played depended on how I felt. And if you don't feel good, you usually don't play well. So a part of this transition part that I try to help men to understand is it's natural. It's a natural process. After you've been doing something for so long and they finally take it away, there's going to be a period of time where a couple of things have to happen. You're going to have to grieve that one because we were just sitting here talking. I still play ball once a week. I shouldn't after a bad hip and a bad back, but I just can't stop. It's just such an outlet. And most of the time, it's just about being out there and kind of being involved in this kind of team thing, this camaraderie. Like if I don't do it, then the rest of my week just feels awful. So hopefully what we can do today here is just spend some time talking about some of those moments, some of the things that we've done, some of the challenges that we faced, and kind of how we dealt with them. And I want to start off talking to you a little bit about just going through some of those times. I know there's different people that can influence the way that we kind of feel sometimes. I know when I used to come home, it was so great to come home to kids kind of jumping on your lap, and we talked about kids earlier. Can you talk a little bit about that change of a stressful day and then coming home and kind of unwinding a little bit?
Well, kids are my children are the best part of my day. They get to really see who I am. My wife gets to see who I really am. Besides on the court, because I'm an ultra competitive guy at home on the court, and at home I'm competitive amongst small games and things that I like to do. But I'm not the same person I am on the field, the court, whatever we are when I'm at work. So they get to really see who I am. They get to help me de-stress and kind of just find my comfort zone. And the hardest part of being a professional athlete is that sometimes we have to compete at a high level. We have to be someone else. And you have to take on a persona or a kind of a challenge to be able to be ultra competitive. Like for me, I was taught in college by Coach K that I had to play with a chip on my shoulder. So if anybody's ever seen me play, they say, why is he so angry or he's a jerk? Because I was taught that. I was taught that to be, because you're an asset at that point in time. You have something that people want. They want somebody that can play at a high level, that can compete hard, that people do not like to guard them. Okay, so I took that role on, and then sometimes when I come home, I have to actually take time and be me and sit down and not be as high strung. So we're talking about like what would your wife say is the worst part about you? I'm super competitive, but I am also not the guy that people see on the court. And she gets that, like, is he as aggressive, or is it, no, I'm not at all. I don't speak loud. Like I'm just yeah, I'm just it's just totally different. So in basketball, like, you have to be two different people sometimes, and people really don't understand that.
Yeah, if people kind of search when I played, there was a fight, there was a this, and there was a that. And it was hard to be on the floor. I remember, like, I used to take 30, 40 minutes, sometimes even an hour after the game, because I knew once I came out of that locker room, I was a dad, I was a husband, I was a lot of other things. And I think the message that we're trying to share with you now is there always has to be that point where you realize I can't wear this hat all the time. I can't wear this intense moment all the time. It'll wear you down. You have to find ways to take that off and just be. And you do that with family. You do it with making a decision. Once I step outside of these buildings, once I step outside of this arena, I'm not that person anymore. I don't have to be that person anymore. I talk about that a lot in transition, that point where, okay, it's over now. What are we going to do? What kind of practices do we have? We play basketball. I know a lot of times now I meditate. And we were just talking about the finals, like that ultimate high, high, high. Like, how do you stay up there? And I guess my question to you is: was there ever a time where you were at this moment in your life, in your career, where you were, say, on that run with the Cleveland Cavaliers heading to the finals, and something happened to trigger you not to be able to go out and play your best basketball?
Um, I didn't experience anything like that because we had so many balanced people, right? And there was a time in my life to help balance me, so that at that point in time, it didn't really, I couldn't get to that place. So there was a point in time in my career where I got stuck. Well, I got released. I got released in the middle of a season for the first time. I was probably like 26, 27 years old. Basketball is not supposed to be this way. I got put in a trade package for Mike Bibby. It was 5 people, so they had to find a contract that would work. I was on a 1-year deal at that point in time, the Sacramento Kings, and they traded me. Well, they had to release me to be able to receive the package that was coming in. So now I'm stuck without a team for the first time, and it's not supposed to be this way. Like I was supposed to be a part of the Sacramento Kings future. They were telling me all these things, but they had an event at that point in time that was unforeseeable, and they had to handle the business at that way. So I was at that point where the playoffs were about to start, and my agent was looking for another team, and he was trying to find the right situation for me. And the Kings said they wanted to bring me back next year, but this is just the time that you're in. And now, for the first point in time in my life, I didn't have the thing that meant the most to me. I didn't have my kids at that point in time, so I didn't know how to function. And then I went home talking to my parents, trying to find something to do. The NBA's on TV all around, so for it's entertainment for everybody else, but for me, it's like, why am I not there? Why am I not participating? Like, I'm dealing with all these questions from family members and friends, and I don't know how to cope. I don't know what to do. I don't know what to keep my mind busy. I don't have any hobbies. Like, I play basketball. This is what I do. And I can't go to the YMCA. I can't go. I don't know where to find pickup games at. Like, I can't.
Why not?
Because I don't know. I'm not a part of that culture right now. Right. Like, I'm supposed to be doing this, and he keeps telling me every day, you're going to sign here and do this. So I get an experience where I can hear my heart beating, and I'm dealing with that, and I'm like, I'm like, Mom, like, can you hear your heartbeat? And she's like, what's wrong with you? Nah. So I'm just trying to keep myself busy and do other things, and it's getting louder and louder, and then I'm getting scared. I'm like, I don't know what to do. So I end up having to get rushed to the hospital because I'm having what's called an anxiety attack. Didn't know what an anxiety attack was before, but fortunately, I had a nurse there that I played with her son, and she knew me, and she helped me calm down, and she's like, listen, this is what you're going through. She explained it to me, and then my doctor took me at that point in time. He was like, listen, this could be really serious. You have to address it. You have to start finding things that you enjoy. What do you enjoy doing? Well, I like to play basketball, and I've never thought about anything else except basketball because I've just been privileged and been in that situation before. So he said, what else are your hobbies? I don't have any hobbies. Like, I focus all my energy on I train 24/7. I train 365 days of the year to prepare for my next season. Like, I'm always immersed in basketball. You got to get something else. So that was my first trigger to think about what I really like in life. What would I do? Like, what would I do outside of basketball for free? What did I want to do when I was done? That started my process to think about what I wanted to do after basketball, what I was going to immerse myself with. And then in order to get myself healthy, like, I went and played in the D League. I went and played for free. And most people, my agent was like, I got this opportunity to play for the Fort Wayne Mad Ants. While we keep negotiating with these teams, would you do it? So I flew to North Dakota, and I was in the Best Western in North Dakota. It's 24 inches of snow outside. I'm just sitting there, and the team that's coming in got stuck in snow. So I'm sitting in North Dakota 2 days by myself. And meet this new team, play with this new team for about 4 weeks. But that's how I de-stressed, played basketball for free, figured it out on the basketball side, got a new team, ended up signing the Denver Nuggets. But then it just started that process of like, now I have to build myself to what I enjoy, what am I going to really do? And then when I got to the finals, now we're in a high pressure situation. We're down 3-1 to the Warriors, and we have so many guys who care about life in general and care and know how precious this opportunity is, and we can talk and bounce things off each other, and I can share my experience with them, and like this life is really about more than this, that we couldn't really panic.
Right.
We can share how this is a stressful situation, but it doesn't really mean that much. Yes, it's a part of our goal, but we can take this one at a time. We can concentrate and we can be there for each other, and then that's how that ends up being a story that I can remember forever.
No, that's great, man. For me, I can remember it started much earlier. I can remember playing in this senior college game, and you know how you get into a funk on the free throw line, you start psyching yourself out. I think I went to the free throw line probably about 15 times that game. Like people kept following me because the fans saw how stressed out I was, and some of them started cheering. I mean, I was like, at this point, I'm like 3 for 9,
Right.
and they're cheering. You know, they want to see.
You can practice them. No,
Come
it's
on,
more
man.
mental than
It's more
it's
mental
more your heart beating out
than
of your chest
anything.
and
In anything.
anything.
Yeah, I tell people, if you really want to, like, you see those fans who they call out in the middle of the floor during the game, and they
Right.
want to shoot a shot, and they airball it or something like that. I was like, okay, now you guys start seeing a taste of our world, you
Right.
know. Or if you're sitting here at your desk and there's a camera in your face all the time, like you can't do nothing. There's this pressure moment. So anyway, long story short, I can remember that moment at that free throw line triggered me every time I went to the free throw line after that, because I developed this, I don't know what it was. It was like almost like a mental block. Like I couldn't remember my routine when I got up there, that I dribble the ball 3 times or 2 times. Usually we develop a routine. We go to every single time to get that success for muscle memory. And I just didn't know what the heck was going on. I thought it was, hey, I need to practice more, practice more. It really wasn't until I had a conversation with a coach after a game, and he started talking about, yo, when you're up there, I see you thinking too much. Like you thinking about what you have to do. You literally have to just go up there. I don't care if you dribble it once, dribble it twice, just shoot the ball. You know what you're doing. And I can remember the first time I did that, I airballed it. So I was like, that wasn't a good idea. And then I was like, okay. I took a deep breath and I said, okay, I airballed it. The worst that happened was it got silent. And in that moment, I didn't faint. We didn't lose. The world wasn't over. I was like, oh, that wasn't bad. You know, and from that moment on, I just take a deep breath. And if I felt like dribbling twice, I dribbled twice. I felt like dribbling 3 times. And my free throw percentage from that moment on just went up, because it wasn't a mental thing. It wasn't a physical thing. It was actually a mental situation.
So, beginning of my career, I used to get a little over anxious about shooting free throws because now shooting in front of 20,000 people, a million people watching, like you kind of overthink the situation. It's really a lot harder than what you think it is. Um, and so I devised this plan of just thinking about how I practice. I practice every day doing the same thing. That I'm in the gym. I'm trying to make 10 in a row before I leave the gym, and I end my day every that way. And I usually get to 9, and then now you really start thinking, and then that's when I have to concentrate. So when I get to the free throw line in the game, I'm at 1 and 2 on my normal trajectory of making 10 in a row. And I can always get to at least 7 before that. So make 1 or 2 and I'm there. So mind you, in the finals, I'm not playing at all. 3 of our guys get in foul trouble. Richard Jefferson, Iman Shumpert, J.R. Smith in foul trouble. And I'm prepared because my job is to be prepared for anything. I know all scouting reports. I know everything that I'm supposed to do. But now we got 6 minutes before the half ends of game 6, and the Warriors are coming back on a run. And Tyronn Lue looking around the huddle like, what do I do? I can't really. And then one of my teammates says, Kyrie Irving says, put Dahntay in. And LeBron says, put Dahntay in. And coach was like, all right, cool, put him in. He's like, no, now, literally, it wasn't rocket science. T. Lue was like, all right, cool. Yeah, you win. All right, now this is what we're gonna do. So now I'm about to I'm about to start. I'm trying to be cool, not shake, but like this is the finals. This is everything that you wanted as a child. This is your moment. Okay, so what you gonna do? All right, I know what I'm doing. I've been coaching the whole time, helping other guys out because that's part of being a teammate is helping other people. So now I'm abreast of what everybody else is supposed to do, so I can do it. Been successful so far with them, so now I'm time for you to do it yourself. So I get in there and I'm super nervous. Don't get it twisted. And it's a play. Klay Thompson comes down. I already know his responsibility because I'm helping coach everybody else. So Klay, I think, ends up scoring. I got to shake it off because, all right, come on. And it's the biggest game that I've probably ever played in my life. And playing the offensive end, and I know where I'm supposed to be. And Bron passed to me, and I get an and one. So now I have a free throw to shoot. And it's the most nervous free throw of all time for me. But then I went back to that time of all the other free throws, and now you're in the gym by yourself, and just make the first of your 10 in a row. And I was able to make it. And then I got another 2 free throws in that speed. And then I just focused everybody out of the gym, focus on that one opportunity, and you're number 2 of 10 in a row, and number 3 of 10 in a row, and was able to hit them. But that prepared me to just focus on what is not around us. And most people say, "Do you pay attention to the fans in an arena?" No, we never get an opportunity to because we're so focused on what we're doing. I may be able to pick my mom out of the sea of people and pick my wife out, maybe my kids, but I don't pay. We don't pay. We try not to focus on the task at hand and not see everything that's going on around us because it could deflect us, it could distract us, or put us too far ahead of where we're supposed to be. We're supposed to stay at an even queue.
I think the message here is that, even on the highest of levels, there always has to be that moment where you can revert back to something. I really now want to talk about, and I'll go first. I think dealing with stress in the NBA, it's not just the NBA, it's the NBA, it's life. Because on the other side of that, like I said, we're dads, we're husbands, we're sons, we're nephews, we're all those other things. And I can remember when I first started playing for the Pacers, I started noticing every day I just woke up overwhelmed. At the time, here it is. I'm fighting to stay on this team. I'm just now married, kids. We buy a new house. Like all these things happen in like a matter of 2 years. I go from here to here really fast, and I'm waking up and I'm just overwhelmed. And at the time, I didn't have any really let's say, positive ways to kind of deal with my stress. So, what I want us to shift to is positive ways to kind of deal with that stress and negative ways that we've dealt with that stress. And I'll be very honest, that waking up like that feeling every day, I knew that I had a choice. Um, and I'll talk about the negative things. For me, I'll be honest, like I found myself, you come home after a long road trip, it's late, everybody's asleep, you're in this house by yourself, there's really nobody to talk to, and you find yourself sitting in a chair. I find myself, I'm talking about me now, I find myself sitting in the chair and a lot of times grabbing a drink. And I noticed that throughout the season, 1 became 2, 2 became 3. And it was the way that I kept trying to escape this heaviness of the world. And it wasn't helping at all because you get up the next morning, you definitely got some kind of practice or you got somewhere to go, you got to work out, you got to get treatment. And I'm dragging myself, to the gym to get this treatment and to work out. And I found myself, and we all know that alcohol is a depressant. I found myself one day just sitting there, literally crying, because here it was. I was trying to this alcohol that I was going to. I thought it was going to make me feel better. I thought it was going to mask all this stuff. I thought it was going to take some of this weight off my shoulder, and it wasn't. And I was frustrated. Now I'm not even dealing with all the other stuff. I'm mad at the alcohol because it didn't do what it was supposed to be doing. And it's a never-ending spiral. There's nothing going to come out of dealing with stress in a negative way. You're only going to keep digging a deeper hole and a deeper hole and a deeper hole. And I could tell you a number of stories where, I think as athletes, and we always see all of the negative stuff and negative ways that we've kind of dealt with our anxiety, our fears, our depression, and whatever. And we're talking about a lot more in the league now, but um, I'll take that hit of all the negative stuff that I've done. Can you talk about some of the positive things that you've done in those stressful situations? I know it's different for me now, and I'll follow up with you, but I think in those situations, like you said, you found ways to kind of balance a lot of that, and but I knew that for me, I just didn't. So can you give them some examples of some of the positive ways that maybe they could deal with that?
My journey has been at the end of his era and at the beginning of this new social media era. And fortunately, you didn't have to play in the social media era because no, honestly,
For not inventing that stuff, because
but but in at the end of his era, I guess I could understand the thought process of a fan and saying, why are athletes out and making themselves so vulnerable and in clubs and drunk and doing all these things, right? Because they have so much to lose, right? But we don't think any differently from you. We are just like you. We are as insecure as you may be. We are, if you think about it, we depend on your approval every day of our lives. And when we don't get those same type of claps or things are not going well, it just magnifies even more. So most of our time is spent on the road. Most of our time is spent by ourselves, away from our family, in hotel rooms, in a box. And you may be insecure. You may be going through something. You don't know how to deal with it. Towards the middle of my career, we started having people to talk to on our team, on our staffs. And those were big things because having someone to talk to, having someone to download your problems that you're going through, whether with your spouse, whether it be with friends, with competition, that was a way to be able to escape and talk about things and help you deal with it. But the only things we had, like in the beginning of my career, was to go out, and the only place we could go out is you land at 11 o'clock at night. The only place you can go to is a bar or a club, and the only way you can escape is amongst people you don't know. With alcohol, like honestly and truth, there's not really much to do except that, because the next morning you have to work, and then that cycle starts again, and you work until 10 o'clock again, and then the only other place for you to go where is a bar or the club again. Like you really don't have much time in the city because you have so much going on, and most of the stuff is done on the road. So the most you're escaping is done in a club. And then, so in my era, we kind of transitioned out of that, and we had people to talk to, so we kind of got away from those things. But in the social media area, the approval thing got out of control because now you can see what people are really saying about you, and as much as you're looking for the positive, you only see the negative. Just you only really see the negative. It could be 1,000 positive comments about you, but you only see the negative one, and that tends to magnify and just circulate in your minds. And so the team doctors and people around you now have to help you find a way to stay away from that. So that's why you see LeBron James going to 0 dark 30. Stay away from social media because he has to detach himself from what other people say about him. He has to. You have to find a way to find out what you truly feel about yourself first and foremost. And I had that opportunity through a friend. I had an unbiased friend. He's a mailman. He's one of the best people in the world. He's my best friend, but he's a mailman, and he's an amazing soul. But I could always bounce myself off of him and say, am I wrong? Am I right? What am I doing wrong? What about this? And he could give me an honest perspective. My first son, he's 13 right now. He's built in the same capacity. Like I've had held my accountability is held through two people who are great, just regular people, and I can ask about myself and like just look in the mirror and see what's going on. Because if I didn't start talking to somebody early, it could end in a cycle of bad habits, drinking, things of that nature that wouldn't be a true perception of who I am.
It's interesting you bring up our era and your era and all those different things. And it's so funny because I grew up here in Oakland, California. And the one thing you don't do when you're playing sports in Oakland is show emotion. Um, uh, if you get knocked down, there's been times where, I come home bleeding and mad, but I wasn't crying, and very, very rarely was I showing some type of emotion. So this was all being suppressed all the time. Like if I'm angry, I'm suppressing it. Most of the time, if I'm happy, I'm doing that. I'm throwing a little smile. You know what I mean? Like, but there was very rarely a time where I wasn't trying to suppress what I felt. If you're out there on the court, something happens, you don't even have time to think about it. You gotta get back on D, or you gotta go on, whatever the case may be. And it wasn't until after I stopped playing that um, I went to therapy, and the first thing we talked about was how do you identify with your emotions. So I come in one time, and my therapist has four corners, and she puts these different feelings on the wall. And really, it was the four feelings that I had. I was either anxious, I was either upset, I was happy, and at times I was just kind of like I didn't have any energy, so I was just sitting there, really like lifeless. And as soon as I walk in, she would tell me, "Let me know how you feel," and I would just go to a corner. It was never kind of in the middle, saying, "Hey, today I'm a little happy, but now I'm a little sad because this has happened, so I'm gonna stand right here." Like I really didn't know how to deal or even identify with what I was feeling, and that caused a problem in my relationship. So I want to switch to relationships a little bit because that's always a part of our lives, and it's so crazy because and we're men, we grunt, we say less words and whatnot. But I noticed that all the women in my life, if you measure happiness, they can give you 10 words to express how happy they are. I'm either happy or I'm not. Like what you want me to tell you, I'm either happy or I'm not. What's the problem? Well, how happy are you? What makes And I'm like, listen, I can't do that. Like I can't tell you how happy I am. Don't you see? I'm happy or I'm not. Like that's it. So, I really had to start learning how to express and be communicative about like, hey, you know what, I'm really excited and showing that or expressing how happy I am. And that always kind of, run amok in a relationship. So my question to you is, even in those moments of whatever you're dealing with on the basketball floor, how did you then not take a lot of that into your relationships and have them kind of take over at times? Because we're only human beings. If you're experiencing something on the floor and I was angry towards the end of the game, I tried to decompress, but there were times when I came home and I would take it out on, my wife, my kids, and whatever the case may be. So can you talk about a moment? Can you give us something that speaks to, you're in dealing with relationships? How do you manage that?
I'm an only child, right? So, and being an only child, like I never had anybody to talk to, no brothers and sisters. Like I spent most of my time by myself. So I never really was one to communicate, to tell how I'm feeling, to just just to have that exchange. I was all about me, and then in training for playing the sport that I play, yeah, I have teammates, but I was just so focused on just being the best player I could be. So playing in a team structure when I got to college and learned how to be a teammate um, was how I learned to really communicate and not think about myself. and I use basketball as that way to not think about myself and try and give more to others and try and let all that stuff that I was feeling inside come out. So that's where that's why I'm so I give so much energy on the court, and that's why if anybody ever see me play, I give so much energy on the bench because I'm giving energy that I usually keep in on a daily basis. And I was taught that from Coach K, just to give, just let basketball be a release for you, and let that be that life release. But then that it came to the point where, as I said, I gave you that incident. When I didn't have that release, I had a problem. So then I had to find ways of just being that way in other people's lives, and then actually ultimately talking to somebody and talking to one of our team professionals about like what I was going through and start having those conversations. And that prepared me for marriage, my next step. So then now I was prepared to have conversations and really communicate rather than bottling things up the way I normally did on a daily basis, because either I would just bottle everything up and then let everything out in basketball and then go home and bottle it up again and let everything out. So in being in my era of having the people around you to talk to and use those professionals and not have to feel some way of going to somebody's office because they were in-house already. And I think that's the barriers of a lot of people in my life. They don't want to go and talk to somebody because they think it's weird, or no, like we have to seek these people out in our lives. And now not in the basketball setting, now I have to go seek out somebody to talk to and find a resource, because that helps me be a normal human being. I have to take care of my body for basketball, take care of my normal health, but I have to take care of my mental health as well, and be able to communicate and get things off my chest, and be able to be a functioning husband, a father, and a son. Like I have to be able to talk and communicate and get outside of myself, because my normal way is just just bottling everything up and just blowing up, and I don't have basketball to do it.
Right. I know that we're here for a reason. You know, mental health is obviously something that, to me, is about awareness. It really speaks to how are you going to take care of yourself. And sometimes, like I said, now I've learned that when things are a little bit crazy, I do have to sit in silence. I have to meditate. There's things that you miss out on when life is going so fast. You really have to sit down and really be thankful, be grateful of just that moment, nothing else. Um, I know even in this tech space, things go so fast. I got a friend that tells me, like, one day for me is like 3 days for him, because things are moving so fast. And, I can only look at him and hope that one day he'll learn how to um, just sit there and just be whoever you are, wherever you are at that moment. Um, so we can sit up here all day, but I think our message to you is, even at the highest of levels, even as you see us stress about all the stressors, I know you guys have some of those same stressors. We're the same. We really are. Up here, you're either going to deal with it, learn how to deal with it in healthy ways. You're either going to make a conscious decision to say that I'm worth it. I'm worth literally taking a second for myself. I'm worth having my mental health in great shape, just as I have my body in shape. It was almost our jobs. We had to. We didn't have a choice to physically be the best that we could. But to me, it wasn't. It wasn't until I started realizing that mentally and psychologically, when I learned how to take care of that part, I kind of became whole. Because now my physical body, my mental body, and everything else was aligned, and I was constantly working on that. And I make a conscious effort today. I'm 50 years old. It took me 50 years to realize it, but if I don't work on each one of those areas in my life, I'm never whole as a person. I owe that to my kids. I owe that to the people that love me. I owe it to my team, and I owe it to my brothers. I have to take care of myself. There's no other choice. There's no other way. There's nothing else that's going to make you better. It's not going to be more and more and more and more and more. We talk about guys now not practicing like we did crazy 2 or 3 hours, but when you sit to think about it, it's be efficient in that moment. And when you're not in that moment, relax and enjoy and take it in. So that's kind of our message here. What I like to do now is what do you think? Like we're here, we have our experiences. Um, I know now I've been through a lot. I have kids that are grown. My son plays ball. We can have a conversation about that too. I've coached them. I've been here. I've been there. So if there's any questions that you guys have for us, um, like Dante said, you find somebody to talk to. And I know there's cameras. I know there's a mic. I know there's other people. But I'm an open book. I have to be. When I go and talk to these men about their lives, about their transition, the first thing I do is I share all of me, the good, the bad, and the ugly, to let them know I'm here with you. I'm going to walk with you. I'm not going to stand and let you walk by yourself. I'm going to be right there with you in the low and in the high. So if there's something you have for us, definitely shoot away.
Hey, I'm Paris. So I have a two-part question. One's serious and one's fun.
Okay.
So tell us straight up, what is the NBA doing to bring mental awareness to the players that are currently active and on the court?
We just started our mental health program. I think Keon Dooling was here last year talking about his story and some of the things that he's gone through. And I think he has an amazing, incredible story. He's leading our charge actually to really kind of throw out this stigma of, we can't go talk about our issues because we're basketball players and we're supposed to, like that's out of the window. We've had guys step up and say, hey, I have anxiety, I have depression, I have all this stuff. So the first thing we're trying to do is ask our guys in those moments, what do you feel? We want to put our players in the center of all of that and ask them like, yo, like when your anxiety is high, when you're stressed out, what do you feel? What do you need from us? And how do we help? So our program is really structured around that. The NBA Players Association, the NBPA, is really doing a phenomenal job at trying to come, once again, walk beside our guys and make sure they have those resources and support.
It's good to know. And this one's for Dante. So it's the night of the championship and y'all win. What do you do after? Do y'all go to the club and turn up, or do you spend time with family? Like, what do you do after that moment? Because it's such a natural high.
I think the game started at 2, so we have our first meeting at 9 a.m. And at 9 a.m., we go over game plan, what we're gonna do. We have a breakfast lunch, right? So then, but right before that, me and a couple of teammates went to church right down the street. Me and Richard Jefferson, maybe somebody else went to church because it was a Sunday. So try to stay as much into our normal routine as possible, just to not make the game way bigger than what it is. Because if you start really thinking about what Game 7 is, it is a huge event across the world. Like it can get too big for you. So stay in our normal routine, went to church, had breakfast, talked about our normal day. And then our families come in because they flew our families in. So um, my wife was actually here on Google Business. So she's a Google employee. So she was here and she came in. My mother and my kids came in and they kind of met in the hotel and they came up to my room. So at that point in time, now I'm coming from my meeting and I'm going to take a shower to get ready to go to the game because we have to be at the arena probably like 10:30, 11. So my son was not a talker at that point in time. He's a little slower, like boys operate slower than at times. Like he just didn't talk much. And he came into the shower and he wasn't saying many words, period. And he said, Dad, you're gonna win a big trophy. And I literally rushed out the shower, like, who is telling him, why are you setting him up for this? Like, why are you setting his emotions about trophies and stuff? Because if we don't win, we're gonna have a problem. Like, you're gonna set him like right. I'm not like don't put him into that. And she's like, what are you talking about? I haven't even talked to him about it. We haven't explained it to him. So somehow along he's figured this out. He starts talking about a trophy. All right, cool. So we go to the arena. We start our day. I ate at 8:30, So we get ready to play, warm up, our meeting. We're on the court. 2:00 starts. 2 to 4 is the game. Game ends. It's 4:30. We win, and then that's when all the champagne is passed out. Okay, so now you're all in emotions and everything, and we're in arena till like 7:30. Pictures from a 2:00 game. We ate at 8:00. There's no food around. No, so I literally had a little bit of breakfast. I was nervous, so you start drinking champagne, obviously, because you're in the moment. So that's why you're like me, more drunk than what you really are because you haven't eaten. I remember walking my mother out of the arena. She took an Uber because she had to have surgery the next day, so she had to fly out. So I had to walk her to her Uber at the arena. Took pictures, and then they put us on a plane and sent us. They put the family and the players on 2 separate planes, and we went to Vegas. No, we went to Vegas and we had a party. We landed at 11, and and there was a party waiting for us. We got back on the bus at like 4 a.m. and actually basically got to Cleveland at the same time as the family because they had a small problem on that plane. So we landed basically at the same time, maybe like 11 a.m. the next morning because we had been in Vegas, and then it's a full-on city party, so like you don't really sleep. And I don't know where we ate in the meantime. I think people were starting to eat at like 3 a.m. Like I saw LeBron go and like I got to get some pizza in like the hotel lobby. Like I got to eat. I got to do something because we've been doing way too much at this point in time.
He is human.
Oh, he's human. Very.
LeBron has to eat.
Very human.
Okay.
Like,
all right.
First up, thank you guys for doing this. Mental health is super important. I volunteer my time teaching a program called the Happiness Program for Professionals. So I appreciate the challenges you guys are trying to solve as well. So my question is, in the last couple of years, a lot of like top NBA players have been coming out about this problem, right? Like Kevin Love talked about it, and there's speculation that Teron Lue had some struggles as well. How is this being received in the NBA today, in the locker room? Is there empathy? Do people get the challenges that the rest of their teammates are going through? How is it different from what it was, say, 10 years ago when mental health was not a conversation people would have?
Well, right now people are being received because we all go through it, and it's kind of like it's like a relief. It's like like I've been going through that. And I just was. We're so much like gladiators, and we're supposed to be so tough when we all know we're not really that. We just have a talent, and we're no different from anyone else. We just have a talent. We go out and do our talent, and then we get put on pedestals. And for people to come out now, it kind of like gives you like a sense of relief. Like, okay, you're going through that. Oh, me too. And it kind of like starts a dialogue to make it a safe environment to just start having real life conversations. So that's what I was meaning. Like when we're in the finals, we were having so many real life conversations that like we were so thrown around of what we were going through, how we were feeling, and life problems. We knew where each other were so that we could be there for each other. And now we're just like such a big union of friends on and off the court that the stress is not that really important. So now it gives people the ability to deal with their problems, number one, and not feel ostracized or like because if you don't deal with it, it just swells and gets bigger and bigger and gets out of control at times. So now guys can deal with their problems. They can get help on the resource side from guys like Tone at the NBPA, the NBA, the organizations that are really run well have people that are constantly asking and trying to be a resource to you and trying to help you be better on and off the floor. So now guys are really having real life conversations about things other than basketball and business and really dealing with what's going on in their lives and not having to bottle up and not having those reactions where you get in trouble or things get blown out of proportion. Now you can really start like dealing with what's on your chest.
Yeah, we didn't have any of that. Like you better not show anything for any reason. Um, the guys that I played against, the game was different. It was more of the physicality of the game. You talk about being gladiators. We almost had to have that persona. Like there was no way that you were going to push me and I wasn't going to push you back. There was no way that I was going to get knocked down and a few plays later somebody was going to get knocked down. It's just the way the game. We didn't know nothing else. There was nobody to talk to, And then if there were somebody, you better not talk to them. You better not be seen showing a weakness at any moment, because the minute I know you're weak, I have the advantage. So I think now I love guys that are at least in a locker room having conversations like life conversations, because we have that. We have spats with our wives. We had a flat tire. We have loved ones that have to have surgery. Like, how do we deal with just life in general? And speaking about that really calms it down. Not that it doesn't spark some type of emotion, but it's just something that happens. It's not the end of the world. So, yeah, that's the difference between then and now.
Yeah, and when I came in, I was a rookie. So like, I was a rookie when he was leaving, and there was so much competition, internal competition, like trying to keep the young guys from getting what I have, holding on, and thought the exchange of information would keep me alive. But that's what keeps you alive, is helping other people understand about life and about basketball, and teaching and sharing. So that has been part of my personal journey, even when, like, every team that I've joined, to try to help somebody else out, to try to be a resource for somebody else, to teach, to share, to be able to ask, because I could watch my older teammates and I could see them falling apart and see them going through stuff with their wives. I also had a teammate that hadn't spoken to his wife in 40 days, passed in the night, didn't talk to each other, and was sending messages through kids. Like, that was, but he just didn't know how to talk to her, didn't know how to talk to his teammates, and you can see him blow up at the job and have an incident. So like, it's like, no, you share information, you share how to deal with things. That makes a team better when you have individuals that want to share and help each other. And that I've been gracious enough to have teammates that were doing things like that, like having dinners, spending time off the court, understanding what that guy is going through, so that if you saw him frustrated or something, you knew it was bigger than basketball. You knew it wasn't about that. He could share and he could let that out. That is what makes some teams better than others, because they can deal with life, and dealing with life is the hardest part. The basketball stuff is the easy part. If you can get life taken care of and you can have somebody feel like they care about each other, and they can share, then the basketball stuff comes easy. So that's what makes the good teams better than the other teams. Like, even the Warriors, those guys are really a unit of people who are super unselfish, and you can tell that they spend a lot of time off the floor with each other, and they understand each other as men first, not just as basketball players. It's bigger than the passes and the threes. They really care about each other. They really care about each other's lives and these kids, and they're in touch with each other to the point where now you see the byproduct, and that's great basketball.
Really quickly, I think one of the things I found when I was with the Indiana Pacers, we did everything together. We would show up at kids' birthday parties, and we would, be there for each other. When I got to Toronto, it was a younger group, kind of a mixed group, and then there were just cliques of little, older guys kind of hanging together, younger guys kind of hanging together, and we didn't have that same camaraderie. It's what we talk about now that we miss. We miss that group, to go through things and to really talk about things. So I would suggest, I know you guys may be working at a desk. I hope they got you guys working in some teams, because, two heads are better than one, or depending on who you are. Like, not you, I mean. But sometimes it just helps to, the message here is, hey, make sure you have somebody to talk to. Yes, sir.
Okay, so my name's Malik. I kind of want to pivot, talking about mental health. I think there's a few communities where mental health isn't taken as seriously. And I think, a main one you touched on is, men in general, right? I think that for years, right, it's like, if you talk about your emotions, you get all the jokes, right? And that's changing. But I also think in the black community, there's been a lack of conversation there, right? Everybody has that cousin where it's like, oh, well, he just crazy. Everybody, I could tell you, everybody's got that cousin. He just crazy. It's like, he's not crazy. He's schizophrenic. Is a difference, right? So I would love to hear from y'all, right? What you think young black males and young black women really need, right? Because as we come up, I'm only 23 years old, so a lot of my friends are still in that stage where we want to figure it out. I'm glad you figured it out, Antonio, at 50 years old, right? But I want to figure it out now. So what advice can you give to me and the folks around me of in your 20s? How do you figure it out as a young black male and as a young black woman?
That's a great question, man. I really appreciate that. The biggest thing for me is um, being a father, and I've had these conversations with my son about like what drives your decisions, um, and if you don't have this fundamental foundation of who you are, what you stand for, why you are who you are, why you're here, then you will start to let social media, other people, this world dictate your value, your worth, and all of that. And I really believe that a lot of what is going on now is this. It's almost like this generation is like us. They're seeking this approval, and when they don't get it, it's a problem. So they have to do more, and they have to show more. They have to be more angry, or they have to be more happy, or embellish the truth a little bit. I think really asking yourself and knowing the answer of like who you are and what do you base your being on is really where it starts. The bigger picture is like we're talking now. I think because of social media, people, young people think they're talking to somebody. You're not talking to anybody. Sometimes I take my son and his friends. I remember I go watch him play in college. I take them all to eat after, and they're sitting there. And nobody's talking to each other. I'm like, whoa, how do you guys really know what's going on? And they're all on their phones, and I'm just like, wow, this is different. Like, because we used to sit there, have dinner, and talk, and now they don't talk. And then once something really bad has to happen and it hits social media, then you want to come talk to me about it. It's really too late. So I think, those two things, one, knowing you and knowing what you're here for and having that solid foundation. And then two, just making sure you don't keep yourself in that box. Nothing good's happen in a room by yourself trying to solve problems that you're not equipped to or any of that. So I suggest for young people now, no matter what your situation is, you got to have somebody that you can go and share that experience with. If you don't do nothing but tell somebody, a lot of times that's the healing. That's the healing that you need. That may be where it starts. But the minute you put yourself behind that phone, behind that computer, behind that situation, you're really not letting anybody in. We're here to connect. Like I miss that more than anything. Forget the wins, the losses, the whatever. The men that I played ball with, winning and losing with them, I miss that. And if I can just get that back, I'm good. It's why I go and bust my hip and my back up once a week playing ball, just so that I feel normal. So don't run in this silo by yourself. There has to be somebody else. But you may be able to shed more light. But
Maybe I was given I was given the book The Four Agreements by one of our professionals on our team, and one of the big things is like it's not about you. When you see people who are super angry, it's not you. That's usually they're dealing with something else. So empathy, I lead with empathy first and foremost in everything that I do, with most of my interactions, and having empathy for another human being that they most likely are going through something else that they don't want to communicate. And then second of all, using your resources that are around you, not being afraid, taking the stigma off of talking to someone. I sat in the kitchen with my mother. My mother's from a generation of not receiving help and not talking about things and not trying to figure things out and just bottling things up, and even in our community. And going and talking with somebody, helping her go if I have to go with her, seeking out professional help, talking to somebody, and then sharing those resources with other people around you. Because the more we share with other people, the more that information can be disseminated, the more those people can share as well. And if we keep sharing as groups, we can start healing some of these wounds and healing some of these problems and helping people be more in a communicating space rather than bottling think it's all about them and getting over some of these negative stigmas. Regardless, just as human beings, you guys work in teams as well. And finding out about your teammates is a big part of being a successful team. Find out what makes them tick, find out what they're going through, finding how you can help them maybe because you helping them can also help you. And then keeping that cycle going so you guys can communicate in a great way, but also get your work done more effectively.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate it.